All right, what's going on, everyone? Good morning. Let's do a quick sound check here, make sure we are good to go. But I hope you're all doing well on this fine Tuesday morning. Hey, Claudia, good morning. Always good to see you. All right, guys. So I missed a good futures trade yesterday morning. I did not miss it this morning. So got a little recording here. And this was about 7 o'clock in the AM. Right, we had a 30-minute squeeze here on the QQQ futures. And kind of taking a look at this thing from the ground up, you had your 2-minute sell signal under the trailing stop. We had a 5-minute squeeze and a 5-minute sell signal, also under the trailing stop. We had a 15-minute trading under the trailing stop. And then the only thing that made it, I guess you can call it a little bit less than ideal. We had a 30-minute squeeze. We had a sell signal. It was above that trailing stop. Trailing stop down there at 18,144. So when I jumped in and got short, that's a level I really got to pay attention to. They might break it lower. They might flush it down to that trailing stop. If there's going to be a level of support, it'd typically be that. So I'll kind of run through the recording here. I am short. Now the 5-minute squeeze just broke short, which gives me a little bit more conviction. They might want to take that 30-minute squeeze down towards my target, 18,120-ish. Now here we are at that trailing stop. So at that point, if I'm going to get paid here, we got to break under that level. If they hold it, they might pop it. They might try to slingshot that squeeze higher. And then I think right here I move my stop down to break even. Let me see. Yeah, so when I first took the short, my stop was all the way up here. And then one thing I'm really big on, once the thing starts to move, and I've got about 10, 15, 20 bucks of profit, I want to move that trailing stop to break even. Then I can go walk my dog. I can go have a coffee. I've got a zero risk trade. All right, 5-minute squeeze break short. A little pop there off that trailing stop. All right, so I'm keeping a close eye on things. And then we got the break. And going down towards that 18,120. And this is fast forwarded, of course, or sped up rather. All right, breaks that trailing stop. Little bit of a bounce. And then notice right there, right, when I got short, we were above the trailing stop. The trailing stop being that pink line. And then at this point here, the trailing stop shifted in the favor of the bears. Gives me a little bit more conviction I'm on the right side of the move. And then a few seconds later, boom. Filled for a nice little profit. So I show you that to say that's pretty much all I'm focused on right now. Not so much a swing trade, not going at it with a bias to the upside or a bias to the downside. Keeping my focus on these lower time frame squeezes. If they shape up for a long, I'll take them long. If they shape up for a short, we shall take them short. So I figured I'd show you guys that one. But all right, so looking at the futures here, a little bit soft. S&P futures down about 0.4%. The Dow Jones is flat. The rut is green, and then the NQ is down about 0.7%. On the S&P futures here, if we check the signals and the squeezes, we have a 2-hour, 30-minute, 15-minute sell signal. And again, I'm not really looking for swing trades right now, so I'm going to anchor a little bit more to all these lower time frames. Right, if we have a 2-hour, 30-minute, 15 for a long, if anything, I'm looking for a bit of a short. So we got a couple sell signals, and then on the squeeze side of things, we have a 5-minute and we have a 1-hour. Jumping over to the NQ, nasty, nasty. Checking the signals here, we have a 4-hour, 2-hour, 30-minute, and a 15-minute sell signal, which would all currently suggest there's a better chance to hourly squeeze. We've got a 1 hour and a 5-minute squeeze. You take that 1 hour squeeze. All right, it's under the trailing stop. You are under the 200, under the 21, under the 50. Got a big three score, -7. Then you throw into the mix your lower time frame sell signals. Might be a better chance that breaks short for a move down towards 18,050-ish. So the S&P futures, the QQQ futures, and then for the cash market, and keep in mind we got the Fed tomorrow. We'll hear from our good old friend JP, and then on Thursday we have the jobless claims. So a couple things coming up on the calendar, but for the cash market here, I think the major focus should still be that big 4-hour squeeze, and we've got a lot of them. The S&Ps, the QQQ, the Dow Jones, Nvidia, a lot of 4-hour squeezes setting up. So SPX here, it's kind of a tough read in terms of do I want to get long, do I want to get short? If anything, it's a little bit too neutral, right? Not crazy bullish, not crazy bearish. And I'm looking at that through a multi-time frame point of view. If we take the 4-hour squeeze itself, it's pretty good. You got the slingshot signal. We got good structure. We're above that trailing stop. We've got a 10 out of 12. All on its own, that's a pretty good looking 4-hour squeeze. You go check your lower time frames, that's where things are a little bit quiet. 2-hour chart is neutral. We do have a 1-hour buy signal. I imagine we might lose that at the open. 30-minute neutral, 15-minute neutral, and a 5-minute sell signal. Again, it makes it a little tough to want to jump in here and blindly get long or get short. If I can get that 4-hour squeeze, and then the 1 hour, the 30-minute, the 15-minute, the 5-minute, they've all got a buy signal, then I can jump in and look for a long. If we are below that 21 EMA and the 5-minute, 15-minute, 30-minute, all of our lower time frames have sell signals, then I can look for a short. When for the most part, our lower time frames are a bit mixed, I think you pretty much just sit back and you let that thing develop. So we'll call that a neutral squeeze, and then QQQ. I think we can call that the same thing. Big three score of 1, which basically says it's neutral. Not crazy bearish, not crazy bullish. Doesn't quite make for a great long, doesn't quite make for a good short. And then no sense of direction from our lower time frames. 2-hour, 1 hour, 30-minute, 15-minute, they're neutral. So whether I'm looking for a long or a short, the 4-hour squeeze on the SPX, the 4-hour squeeze here on the QQQ, very far from what I would call an A+ setup. And they might not fire until we get through the Fed. All right, now we'll go check up on Nvidia here. Now, Nvidia had that conference last night, and they're down about $25 here this morning, and it's a bit more of the same. 4-hour squeeze setting up. Structure is decent. We are below the trailing stop. I'm getting no confirmation for my lower time frames. 2-hour neutral, 1-hour neutral. So I think the name of the game here today into tomorrow, patience. We know when a 4-hour squeeze fires, whether it be long, whether it be short, that can trigger a pretty big move. And I'd like to catch me a little bit of that move. But until I've got more to work with, as far as lower time frame signals, all pointing in the same direction, I got to take a step back. Can't be in a huge rush and just let these things develop. When they do fire, there's a really good chance we'll get a nice move. So a couple things there on the market and Nvidia. Quick update for you here on the crude oil futures. I still think one of the better setups in the market. Got a weekly squeeze, a 2-day squeeze, a daily squeeze, a 1 hour, a 30-minute, and a 15-minute, and even a 5-minute. So I think crude's looking pretty good here. And then a couple things off with the scans from last night. And as always, put the market first. Market first and then the stocks. But Microsoft has a pretty good looking daily squeeze. I think the bigger problem here is going to be the QQQ. Take that 4 hour squeeze in the QQQ. If that squeeze fires to the upside, that's going to give a name like Microsoft a lot of wind at its back. 4 hour squeeze in the QQQ fires to the upside. I think a pretty decent chance, given the setup, they might want to break out Microsoft. 4 hour squeeze in the QQQ fires short. Little bit trickier to get that big breakout. So I'm not in a big rush here to buy Microsoft. And then also on the scans, we had Raytheon, RTX. Now I'm a little bit late for an entry, so I'm not going to chase it. But what I do like about it, we have a daily squeeze inside of a 2-day squeeze, meaning there could be a little bit of that domino effect where if the daily squeeze fires, they can take that to about 95 and change. But if they do fire that daily squeeze, I think a pretty good chance they might fire the 2-day squeeze, which of course can take it a little bit higher. So Raytheon's a little bit interesting. And then what else we got here? BRK/B. Not a bad looking multi-time frame squeeze. Got the daily, got the 4 hour, got the 2 hour, the 1 hour, and the 15. But before I can trade a BRK, I've got to watch the S&Ps first. Right? If they can fire that 4 hour squeeze to the upside, most things out there should have a little wind at their back. 4 hour squeeze fire is short. I don't want to buy the old Berkshire. So a couple things there. That was pretty much it for the scans. And like I said, I'm a bit more in day trade mode, so I'm not doing too much scanning for weekly squeezes or daily squeezes. And again, reason being, we might go higher for another 10 weeks in a row. If we do, I'm going to find my plate of opportunity on a 15-minute, 30-minute hourly squeeze. If we've got higher to go, I want to catch that strength on an intraday basis. Right? Reason being, we're all the way up here at that weekly 3 ATR. It's a little bit stretched, but then even bigger, we're not up here at that monthly 3 ATR all that often. Doesn't mean we have to pull back. Doesn't mean mama market can't keep pushing higher. I want to be a little cautious about going to bed, locked and loaded on calls. God forbid you wake up and the pullback has begun. It can be a little bit painful. But for conversation's sake, from here, imagine the S&Ps go from 5150 all the way up there to 5500. The market's got another 2, 3, $400 in the tank. There's a really good chance along the way, your 15-minute, 30-minute hourly squeezes, they should fire to the upside. I can take advantage of that strength, but I can do that in a fashion where I can go to bed with some peace of mind. So that is the focus, and that's pretty much all I got for y'all this morning. I wish we had a good trade lined up at the moment, but the trade of the morning was that 30-minute squeeze in the NQ, and now we're kind of waiting on the next good setup here. All right, looking like we're getting a 4 hour squeeze here on the futures. which will, of course, make things a bit more interesting. But for now, we got the hourly. Keeping an eye on the hourly squeeze. But all right, folks, any questions, anything y'all want to take a look at, any chart requests, throw them at me here in the chat, and I got you. And then in my mastery, I'm gonna kick off our session a little bit early today. So we'll get the party started around 10 o'clock Central. Give ourselves a little extra time to hang out. All right, P's tagging that 5200. What do we do with D52? One thing I did want to show you though, going back to the hourly chart here for the NQ. Notice a couple things here. We had that big pump yesterday. All right, big pump down here in momentum. They never really got the structure back into good standing. They pump it, they pump it, they pump it. But then notice how the 21 EMA never gets back above that 200. The 50 SMA never gets back above that 200. All the while, the 50 just continues a trend lower. When we get a breakdown and then we get that big pump, the question should be, are we fixing the structure? It's one thing for them to take it from 18,000 up here to 18,400. Did they leave the structure in a fashion where we can actually continue to trend higher? 21 should be above the 50. The 50 should be above the 200. And then ideally, each of them is trending to the upside. Right? Perfect structure looks like it looks a little something like that. You had a little breakdown. You had a little pump. That leaves the structure in really good standing. 21 above the 50, 50 above the 200. 200 SMA is trending higher. The 50 SMA is trending higher, as is your 21 EMA. You got to keep an eye on that. All right, they'll pump it. You feel the FOMO. Oh boy, I better jump in here and buy some calls. Got to check the structure. When they pull it back into less than ideal structure, then you can get that bigger break like you saw this morning. But all right, guys, let me get caught up in the chat here, and I'll see what you got. Get a couple alerts going here on crude. The crude oil futures. Yeah, let's take a look at RSP. That's it's always a good thing to keep an eye on. And for those of y'all that don't know, the RSP is the equal weighted S&P 500. All right, RSP. So if we take our daily chart at face value, pretty good looking. Actually, it's perfect. 12 out of 12. On the big three score, we got a buy signal. We got good structure. We're above that trailing stop. Better yet, we're on top of the launching pad. The launching pad being your 21 EMA. If we take that daily chart at face value, everything looks pretty bullish here. Then you take a look at your lower time frames. Not ideal for a big push higher. 4 hour and the 2 hour are neutral. We've got a 1 hour sell signal and a 1 hour squeeze. We got a 5-minute squeeze. A good example of you might have a beautiful daily chart. If all of your lower time frames aren't lined up in the same fashion, tough to get that continuation into higher prices. So the 21 EMA will be the big level to hold there. We'll see if they can do it. AMD. All right, AMD gapping down a healthy 7 or 8 bucks this morning. Here's the thing about the semiconductors. As far as I can see, at least, AMD pulled back to a 21, back down towards home base. The ETF itself, the SMH, that pulled back to the daily 21. You've got Broadcom, that pulled back to a daily 50. You got AMAT back to the 21. LRCX. All right, so a couple different semi stocks, and then even the sector itself. They've all pulled back towards or to their 21 EMA. But then the big boy, at the one and the only, Nvidia, you haven't quite gotten that pullback just yet. Now, not to say that Nvidia is going to pull back to 830-ish. The point I'm trying to make, though, Nvidia is the king of the hill here. Even though AMD pulled back to support, even though Broadcom and LRCX, SMH, even though they've already made their pullback to their daily 21 EMAs, in the event Nvidia does go lower, and we're pulling back a good 40, 50 bucks, I'd imagine that takes pretty much everything else in the semis lower in the short term. Down goes Nvidia, down goes AMD, down goes Nvidia, down goes Broadcom, down goes SMH. So my thinking would be before I can buy AMD, I've got to get the trigger here on Nvidia. If I can get a buy trigger on Nvidia, and it looks like Nvidia is shaping up for a big push back towards the highs. All right, now I can go look at an AMD. Now I can go look at a Broadcom. As goes Nvidia, goes all of your semiconductors. And I think we're seeing a bit of that this morning where we got Nvidia down about 20 bucks. And therefore, as a result, you've got AMD down 8, Broadcom down 20, AMAT down a few bucks. LRCX is down about $10, and the SMH is down about 3. As goes Nvidia, goes the whole group. So as far as any analysis on AMD, I'd actually do the analysis on Nvidia first. Meaning, for example, later today, maybe tomorrow, Nvidia pulled back a bit, and then boom, you've got a 30-minute squeeze in a buy signal, an hourly squeeze in a buy signal. Then you might want to look for an entry in AMD to the upside. If it looks like Nvidia's got room for lower, I think we should really hold off on AMD and LRCX, etc. For better or worse, Nvidia shall lead the way there. Oh yeah, then we got the other big dog, SMCI. Where are we going to open? 895-ish. I'd call that a healthy gap down. A healthy gap down amongst friends on a Tuesday morning. Yeah, so pretty interesting. You're going to have, for the most part, a lot of your semiconductors have pulled back to their 21 EMA. And now we're going to see here, in some cases, you've got a few of them breaking under their 21 EMA. In the event, Nvidia wants to go down to its own 21, I think they all go a bit lower. AMD, SMCI, the whole kit and caboodle. Danny, what's up, Danny? Taking a look at Meta. Mm, brand new daily squeeze. Brand new daily squeeze. Better yet, we have a 4-hour squeeze. So, Danny, I think you put this together with QQQ, SPX, NVIDIA, Dow Jones, right? Throw that into the mix with all the other 4-hour squeezes. I'd imagine they all fire together with the S&Ps and the QQQ, as always, leading the way. QQQ cleans up a bit, and then boom, they fire that 4-hour squeeze to the upside. I'd look for Meta to follow suit. QQQ breaks down a bit more. They fire that 4-hour squeeze short. Then I think a better chance Meta might do the same thing. Let me check the weekly. Yeah, it kind of looks like every other weekly chart out there. BOB, bullish and overbought. Yeah, Danny, put the market first. Market goes higher, Meta should go higher. Market takes a big old dump. Meta might do the same. And I think that can be said for pretty much everything right now. Meta, Microsoft, Amazon, Raytheon, Bank of America, Goldman, Berkshire. I think they're all going to follow Mama Duck. So keep an eye on Mama Duck in that 4-hour squeeze. Home Depot. Good morning there, RB. All right, the Home Depot. So at first glance here, shaping up for a bit more of a short, which I know in this market, right, not the easiest endeavor. You got to be a bit of a brave soul to want to get short in this market. But I say that because we are under our 21 EMA, not by much, but by a little bit. We're under that daily 21 EMA. We have nothing but sell signals on the big three indicator: 2 hour, 1 hour, 30-minute, and a 5-minute. And then we've also got a 4 hour, 1 hour, 30-minute, 15-minute squeeze. I think from here you play that simple game. Above that daily 21, nothing but lower time frame buy signals. You look for a spot to get long. Below that 21 EMA, nothing but lower time frame sell signals. You look for a spot to get short. So for better or worse here, you probably want to keep an eye on that 1 hour in that 4 hour squeeze. Whether it be long or short, the 30-minute squeeze will go first. Then will come the hourly. Then you got that 4 hour. And then as far as a big level of support here, I'd imagine they try to keep it above the hourly 200, 370.50 ish. If they can't hold the hourly 200, then I think a pretty good chance all the squeezes here might want to break short. The Home Depot. All right, guys, what else we got? Hey, what's up, Chan man? Scott, we're hoping for ideally next week. We are hoping for next week. On the indicator update, we take a quick look here at the futures. Smooching that big 5,200. Is it a kiss of love or a kiss of death? That is the question. Let me go check my crude oil. All right, little hourly squeeze action. over there on that crude. I tell you guys what, it'd really suck if if crude could break out again today. That'd really be a bummer. I think I mentioned it yesterday, but what I'm doing here, and I think the more squeezes you have, the more you can look to do this. I'm trying to get myself a couple of free trades where one trade can finance the next trade, that trade can finance another trade. Potentially, you can do that until the end of time. So I'm taking my first entry in the daily squeeze back here. I caught a good rip into the following session, took off my calls for about a double, and I think it was like $1,000 trade, $1,000 profit. So at that point, I took about 250 of that profit. I went a little further out to expiration, a little bit further out the money with my strike selection, and I bought 250 bucks worth of calls. Now I've got a free trade. Worst case scenario, crude oil goes to zero overnight. Between those two trades, I've got a net profit. Best case scenario, they keep the party going, which they've done a pretty good job of. So on that push yesterday, I sold my calls, locked in a little bit more profit, took about half of that profit, rolled out into another call, a little bit further out the money. And I'm doing that because we got all these squeezes. 4 hour squeeze fired, then comes your daily squeeze, then that 2 day squeeze, then that weekly squeeze. The earlier you can find it, you catch the initial push, then those squeezes all begin to fire. You might end up getting 4 or 5 quote unquote free trades. So if we can break out again today, kind of boogie up there towards 83, I'll take off my calls and I'll roll them out again. 84 strike, 85 strike. And with any luck, crude oil will rally for the remainder of the year without ever pulling back ever again. We'll see what they can do today. We'll see what they can do. Yeah, Danny, good observations. Good observations. When I look at the NQ, and again, getting short in this market is you might as well go play in traffic. But I'm seeing signs of the market might be a bit tired. Like one observation is notice how we're going higher every freaking day, but we no longer have a daily buy signal. That's not all sustainable. Yeah, we're going higher, but she's a little bit tired. Not as much gas in the tank. And again, the fact that we're doing that all the way up here at monthly 3 ATR doesn't mean we're going to get a huge pullback. Doesn't mean the market can't keep cranking higher. Just means for me, I've got to switch over to a day trade focus. I keep buying calls. I keep buying those calls and holding them overnight. I might wake up to a really unpleasant morning, which I, for one, would like to avoid. All right, got filled on that bad boy. Thank you very much. All right, how we doing on time? We got about 9 minutos left. 9 minutes before the biggest crude oil breakout you have ever seen. All right, guys, 2 more questions here, then we'll keep it moving. Okay, RB Fit, good question. So on the crude oil futures, if on the options chain the call is going for 25 cents, it's not 25 bucks, it's 250. So the options and the futures are always a little bit different, product to product. But on the crude oil futures, it's the price of the option times 10, if that makes sense. Yeah, Claudia. So like I mentioned in that short I took this morning, the only thing I didn't love. Now here's the thing: if we got a squeeze, we got a sell signal, but we're above that trailing stop. If anything, that squeeze might just take you down to that trailing stop. Think of getting short, $50 above a big moving average. I'm short in the NQ, and I've got the 50 period SMA about $50 lower. Okay, well the short might take you down to that 50, but that might be a spot where you find some support. Things might bounce. It's a level you want to be mindful of. So when I'm jumping into my short this morning, I've already got that in the back of my mind. Hey, if they break it here, they might try to keep the ship afloat down there at that 30-minute trailing stop. The reason I took this short was because the 15-minute, the 5-minute, the 3-minute, every other lower time frame had a sell signal and they were below that trailing stop. Right, so I put on the short, and now what I'm looking for is, can they keep the price above that trailing stop? All right, now we're coming down, we're testing it. That's where I got to pay attention. Trailing stop might hold the support. They might bounce it and they might blast it higher. Or best case scenario, they break that trailing stop. Trailing stop shifts in the favor of the bears, and then that 30-minute squeeze kind of gets the thumbs up to then go a little bit lower. So I'm kind of sitting there, finger on the trigger, trying to figure out whether or not they can hold it or do they flip it. And then at some point here, they flip it. All right, we're breaking it. We're breaking it. Down goes Frazier. Down goes Jake Paul. All right, we're under it. We're under it. Doing a good job of breaking. And then at some point here, you get this shift. All right, now there's the shift. At that point, that 30-minute squeeze, in my opinion, has got the green light to fire short. 15-minute time frame lined up for a short. 5-minute lined up for a short. 3-minute, 2-minute, 1-minute lined up for a short. The one thing that could have given me a little bit of trouble was that 30-minute trailing stop. They broke it, and from there, they took it right down towards my target. Now, imagine instead, Claudia, this is a great question, by the way. Imagine I'm getting short, and where's my drawing tool? Who took my drawing tool? Imagine instead, Claudia, I'm looking for a short right here, and my trailing stop is it's like somewhere right there. I'm gonna hold off on that short. We're way too close to that trailing stop. If that is gonna be support, they're gonna bounce it in my face pretty quickly. If that was the case, I'd wait for a bit of a break, wait for a shift of the trailing stop, and then I would pursue the short. Being that I was all the way down here, even if they just took the price down to the trailing stop, it would have been a pretty good profit. So great question, and hopefully that makes sense. But all right, y'all, I'm gonna let you go here. As always, I appreciate your time. Let's take one more look here at the future squeezes. Crude oil, we have a 1 hour, 30-minute, 15-minute, and they look a wee bit bullish. Let's see. NQ. Mm, a 4 hour squeeze and a sell signal. What could go wrong? Hmm. In any other market, that'd make for a nice short, and that might be the case today. In this market, this is kind of the game they play, right? They dump it, they break some support, they break some structure. They say, "Come on in, bears, right? Buy your puts, get short. Come on in, the water's warm," and then they just freaking rip it, like in such a violent, violent, aggressive fashion. In a normal market, I would look for that to break short down to the 4-hour 200, and that might work. In this market, that might just insult the bulls. The bulls might feel a bit disrespected, and they might crank it higher. Now I'm not going to fight the 4-hour sell signal, but that has kind of been the game they're playing. Break it lower, rope in the shorts, and then spank them all the way to the moon. But all right, y'all, I'll let you go here. Tomorrow morning we'll be back at it, same time, same channel. And then for those of you in my mastery, I will see you guys a half hour earlier today at 10 o'clock Central. And with any luck, we'll get a couple trades under our belt here on these squeezes. But hey, y'all have a good day. Be disciplined. Follow your rules. And I'll talk to you